In usability testing, I usually recommend testing with 5 users. That's kind of the average recommendation for getting the best optimal return on investment, or ROI. Sometimes you actually need a different number depending on circumstances, and there are 2 main criteria that may cause you to change the number of test users. The first one is how good you are at deriving insights and design recommendations from observations of user behavior. So if you're really skilled and experienced at doing usability testing, and if you have great methodology, and if you're in a situation where it's kind of relatively easy to understand what the users are doing and derive the insight from that, that means you can get away with a smaller number of users, and that'll give you a better return on investment. On the other hand, maybe you are new at doing usability testing, or you have not so solid methodology, or you're in a situation where it's very difficult to really discern and find out what really is going on from observing what the users are doing. In that case, you need to have more users to have a solid recommendation to take to your team and make them work on. So that means more test users. The second criterion is how efficient is your team at taking these design recommendations and generating a new design for you to work on. In some organizations, it's very ponderous, very slow moving. Maybe it takes a lot to get sort of sign off and approval to make a design change. Or maybe the team takes a really long time to implement any design changes before they're ready to be tested. That means you have to be really certain that you're making the right decision or the right recommendation before you make them go and do all that work. That means more test users. On the other hand, in other, I would say, more happy circumstances, you have a more fast-moving team. You can easily get approval because the project manager might say, well, we'll try something, and if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. If it only takes a few days for each thing you're trying, maybe because the design team is using paper prototyping or other really fast methods at getting the next design ready for testing in just a few days. So in those situations, you may just test with just 2 users. Some people actually even go so far as to say just test one person, one user, but I don't tend to like that. Because then you're the victim of idiosyncratic behavior or just random things that happen. Even with just 2 people, you're already able to have some generalization and kind of look between users and determine what's really going on. And so then you can move much faster and get really a very great high return on investment in those cases. The outcome might be test even just 2 users, or test maybe 10 or even 20 users in these other circumstances. So it does vary depending on the situation. But on average, across all projects, the main average recommendation does remain test with 5 users.